Welcome to episode 5 of the One Man's Journey podcast. Today, I am super happy because I get to speak deeply with Mr. Kevin Ducey, who, man, we've had some great deep talks over the years at some next level events and stuff like that, and just outside of next level as well. But Kevin is the former president of Whiteboard and currently the VP of Business Development for Comma Insurance, and he's just an all-around great dude, and I truly appreciate his insight. And so I'll pass it over to him, and Kevin, go ahead and feel free to tell us your story, and we'll jump right in.
Well, first of all, thank you for the dubious introduction. I don't know that I'm worthy of it or deserve it, but I appreciate you, brother. I remember when I first connected with you, it was a next level event years ago, obviously, and I was like, dude, I want to buy stock in this guy. It was in Orlando. I remember exactly where it was at. It was my first next level event, and I was just so impressed with you. And you've continued to show that my impressions were correct in you. You've done some really amazing things with your career. You are constantly innovating and driving yourself to do new things. You're not afraid to take on new challenges. You're a believer of self, and then you've taken the investment in yourself and shared it with others, which I think is really cool. Your health and wellness and your fitness, I mean, it's really taken off. And so, dude, I'm just so impressed with you. Now you've got your own podcast, you've got your own this Facebook channel for One Man's Journey, and I'm proud to be a part of it, proud to be one of the first 5 people to be on your pod. So let me turn the adulations around on you and say congratulations, my friend.
Well, I greatly appreciate that, but like I said, get back to you. Tell us your story. Tell us your story, man. I want to hear your story. Everybody knows mine.
All right. Typical Midwest kid, born in Illinois, divorced parents, all the fun stuff, going to mom's house every other weekend, was raised by my dad. Had a great childhood despite all that. You can look at all the negativity that was surrounding me, and we can get into that if you want. But I had a phenomenal childhood. I had some of the best friends, a guy could possibly have in the neighborhood. And guys, my brothers, I'm still tight with to this day. We grew up at summertime. I mean, our thing was like, everybody asked us what's our favorite sport, and we're like, what season it is, because that's what we did. We were outside playing all the time and getting into trouble and fighting and bonding and all the stuff boys do. And I was a little bit of a knucklehead when I was younger. When it came to school stuff, I was always respectful and kind and courteous to people in authority, but man, I just did not put in the work in the classroom. And so it kind of led me to join the United States Army. Did that fresh out of high school. Basically, a couple days after I turned 18, I was on my way to Fort McClellan, Alabama, to be a military police officer. I was in the Army for 5 years, got stationed in New York, Fort Drum, New York there, which is, on the surface, it sounds like an awful duty station. Looking back, it was pretty awesome because that's where I met my wife, Carol. Carol had designs on going to the University of Illinois, and that was my hometown. She was doing a 2-year stint at a junior college up there. So met Carol, and she was everything to me, a wonderful, phenomenal woman. And I'm like, man, this is divine. This is serendipitous. This is God telling me that, placing her in my life, or me in hers. Probably more her and mine. Let's be real here. And so, we ended up getting engaged and moved back to Illinois, and she finished her career up there, her schooling up there. And, it's been an amazing journey. And then I can speak about my career. So that's like basically my growing up. And then my career, I started at a company called Labor Ready. So Labor Ready is a day labor staffing agency. So really paying people minimum wage, paying them daily to try and do all the grunt jobs that are really hard to fill in America. And it was really pretty cool for me. It didn't take me very long to realize that I really did enjoy and love that industry because you got people across the counter from you that some of them slept on the street last night. Some of them slept in a homeless shelter. Some of them just got out of prison. And they would have this attitude towards me or towards anybody, like, hey, they were going to try to intimidate you, for lack of a better term. And I'm like, guys, you don't scare me. You're just a human being, man. Like I grew up around people that are in your situation. And this wasn't anything new for me. To be around some of these hardened dudes, for lack of a better term. And as soon as they realized that you weren't intimidated by them, there was like this connection, this bond. And there's like, hey, man, I just want some work. Can you find me some work? And they're desperate to work. They're showing up at the office at 5:30 in the morning. And I took a love affair to that. And it was the first time in my life I really worked hard on something. Like I really worked hard on it. I was like, I really want this to work out for these guys. I really want to try to do right by them. And so that career flourished for 15 years, ended up being, regional manager, national sales support manager, and like did all kinds of really cool stuff with that company. But like any other companies, they've got moves and scales, and I was eventually laid off. So anybody who's ever been through that, I can empathize and sympathize. It's hard. You know what the hardest part about that one is, Ryan, is when you get your severance check from a company and it's literally the biggest paycheck you've ever received in your life by a lot. I mean, it was there for 15 years. And I'm like, they're paying me this much money to not work for them. Like they're paying me this much money to go away. It's like, it's a stick in the heart.
Yeah, just like in the movie Moneyball, right? Where he comes down to the batting cage where David Justice is swinging down there, and he's like, "Well, you're paying me $3 million." He's like, "No, I'm not. The Yankees are literally paying half your salary for you not to play for them."
Right. Oh, I love Moneyball. It's one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion.
For sure.
So that was a kick in the gut, but it also was a blessing in disguise. I had kind of soured on the industry. The further I got away from the end users and the employees, like it just was becoming much more corporate, and I didn't really care for that. And so then I was blessed in 2018. My wife had kept talking to me about this company, Whiteboard, and their founder, Brian Bomar. And she's like, you got to connect with this guy. He thinks the same way about sleazy salespeople that you do. I hate sleazy salespeople. I can't stand it. You don't need to sell somebody something they don't need. You need to solve their problems. When you solve people's problems, you're an advocate. You are not the used car salesperson that a lot of people think. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here. But we met, and Brian's like, "Hey man, why don't you come be my VP of sales for me over at Whiteboard CRM?" And I'm like, "You want me to be VP of sales of a software company?" Okay, like I knew CRMs, I used CRMs plenty, but I barely knew how to turn a computer on. But I quickly realized, like I got in there, and it was a blessing that everybody was very busy. It was a startup. Everybody basically, like I was there for 2 days, and they're like, "All right, man, go figure it out." And so I just dug in, man. I just was like, I don't know how to train my sales team because I don't know what my customers like. I don't know what they don't like. I don't know why they buy from us. I don't know why they don't buy from us. I don't know why they stay. And so I just printed off the entire customer list and just started grinding out, like, hey, sending emails. Anybody who wanted to talk to me. And, some of our next level buddies were on there, like Mark Zachary and, Tristan Sherrill, and some of these. Those were some of the guys that responded to me. Jeremy Drobeck in Michigan, phenomenal guy. And then I just remember some of the conversations, and they had very real poignant conversations with me. Stephanie Johnston in Texas about why they used our CRM. And it also helped me understand the mortgage business because I didn't know jack about the mortgage business. And so the conversations just naturally led into what they're doing and what we're doing and what's working and what's not. And eventually I moved into the president role after 6 months. And one of the things I'm really happy about is I was there for 2.5 years, and we more than tripled our revenues in that period of time. And some of the things that we really did that was either intentional or unintentional. I remember this. We were recruiting for a coach, a customer service coach. So when somebody comes on Whiteboard, and you dealt with these folks, like, hey man, how do I set this up? How do I do this? What do I do here? They're going to walk you through it. They're going to train you on how to use the system. And we weren't getting any hits on the job boards. And so one of the guys in our team and one of our customer coaches, Justin Ackland, think the world of the dude. He came and said, hey man, we got to revise what this says. I'm like, all right, what do we need to do? And Justin's like, boom, boom, boom. He's like, bring your weird to work. We need to say, bring your weird to work. Cause it was a very unique office setting, man. It was like, we were our own culture unto itself. And I was like, dude, that's really cool. Let's do that. And so he put it on there. And I remember, this is where I give Justin a ton of credit as well. And and also warm my heart is when we put that on there, and we actually started getting traction shortly after that, whether it was the wording or not, we'll call it that. But I gave Justin all the credit for it. And he's like, dude, that was all you. And I'm like, what do you mean that was all me? He goes, first of all, you allowed me to tell you to bring the weird to work, and you heard us out. And then secondly, you allowed us to execute on it. That's what a leader does. And I was like, man, just warmed my heart. But we we did a really nice job over there. We were like a three-legged stool: Philip, Kutzev, David Welch, and myself. And I wore the president hat, but it was the three of us that got the job done over there. We were eventually acquired by Daily AI, which is now 80. I'm very proud to help lead a company to an exit. And as that was going through the process, Brian Bomar, who's the founder of Whiteboards, also the founder of Comma, said, "Hey, man, Daily AI's got a VP of sales. They've got a CEO. I don't know that there's a role there for you. We think they're pretty comfortable with who they have in place in their leadership. Would you be interested in just kind of sliding over here to Comma and helping LOs secure their future through the insurance transaction part of the mortgage and own their own insurance agency?" And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. So the one demographic of that's really changed if you're sitting there in a mortgage standpoint is when I was at Whiteboard, dude, I was built to handle Ryan Speltz's world, the Ryan Speltz's of the world at that point in time. Ryan was, you're upcoming, right? You were doing this volume of loans. It wasn't where it is. And now I'm at Comma, we're growing together because now I'm ready for deal with the Ryan Speltz's of 2023. I'm ready to deal with the big dogs, the high producers, the folks who are doing that. So that's been a really a shift that's been kind of interesting, but it's also been really enlightening because I get to work with the top players in the industry, man, because it's not owning your own insurance agency in the mortgage space it's not necessarily easy, but it's not hard, but you've got to have a lot of volume to back it up. And so that's been really, really fascinating and enlightening for me to see the differences between a new loan officer doing, 1-2 transactions a month to an established loan officer who's doing hundreds of transactions in a single year. So it's been a fun ride. And obviously I've seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in 5 short years of being associated in the mortgage industry. So sorry for a long-winded way to talk about myself. And so
no, I love it, man. That's the whole point of the whole thing. That's nothing, man. Like I said, like I told you beforehand, there's been a couple people that, they talk through their story and we're at the 20-minute mark instead of the 12-minute mark. So I'm all good. Right. No worries on that, man. No, I mean, obviously you kind of unpacked a lot there, going from childhood all the way to where you are present day. And, the biggest theme for me throughout the whole thing is the grassroots hard work, right? And to be entering, to go from your day laborer place where you were entering grassroots hard work, like feet on the ground in the mud, to going to a startup where your grassroots hard work in the mud on the daily, you were in the military in the mud on the all of those things really it shows who you are. And I would love to ask you a question about it and say, if you were to look back as the person you were before you, or as you were going into the military 2 days out of high school, could you even imagine the direction that your life has taken and the path that has come on the other side?
Absolutely not. And it's, I've gone through some leadership and all these training courses, and I've had people who have invested in me, and I'm very, very thankful for them. Nobody's invested more in me than my wife, and the visions and what she had ideally for her life and what she has for mine, right? And so her investment and belief in me has been the driver behind everything to believe that I could be more than what I ever thought I could, right? And I remember, I was in a group called Vistage, which is peer coaching and peer counseling, and you learn it's a really awesome organization. And big ups to my man Steve Ivey for investing in me in that one. He was my regional vice president when I was with the staffing company that allowed me to be in there, and he went to bat for me on that one, and I was truly appreciative of that. But I remember being in one of those. So they would have people who come and speak, authors, and all kinds of things. And talked about the myth and how Americans are really victims of the myth. And the myth is that you're only allowed to reach the level that your parents reached from a career standpoint, from an earning standpoint, from a socioeconomic standpoint. And the myth is bullshit. Am I allowed to say that here? I just did.
Say whatever. I mean, right. The myth is the bullshit. Exactly.
The myth is bullshit. The myth is bullshit. We have countless examples in this country of people far exceeding anything that their parents ever did. And I probably was struggling with it at that point in time. I remember, I was 26 years old and I made more money in a single year than probably my parents ever had. And I was like, why me? You know, you have that introspection and you start thinking like, how am I different? What am I different? What do I do that makes things different? You know, and I think one of the things that, and I had a great leader, John Demarest, who talked about this too. He's like, leaders are constantly introspective, right? And on the surface, that can sound self-absorbed, right? But it's not. It's not. Leader, like if you don't understand what makes you successful, you cannot repeat that behavior. If you don't understand what is holding you back, you can't change that behavior, right? And so the only way that you can do that is you have to take some time and think about, what am I doing well and what differentiates me, and how can I repeat that behavior? And it's kind of like, you know, I put this on one of my reels recently on Facebook, and I was talking about how, if you polled people like, what do you want to do in this world? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? And a lot of people would say like, well, I'd like to, you know, make the world a better place, or I'd like to change people's lives. Cool, great. Everybody probably has that at some level, but at the same time, like you're like, well, what level can I reach people? Like, dude, frankly, I'm 45 years old. My dreams of being Tony Robbins are long since gone. But man, I have interactions with human beings every day that rely on me, that care about me, that need me to provide in some form or fashion. I can make a difference in their lives. And that's where you can make a lasting impact on the world. I can make investments into them as human beings. And I realized that I did this probably, and I think it's just an overall fascinating curiosity that I have with human beings. And I really do love people. You hear people say like, I hate people. I'm like, I don't get that. I love people. People are fascinating to me. If you're an introvert and don't want to talk to somebody, I'm the worst person in the world to sit next to you on a plane. Just put your headphones in. I'll take the hint. But I think I always had a fascinating interest in people and a curiosity of like how they got there and what they did. And sometimes I can ask too many questions, but that helped me so much in my leadership journey, because I have a lot of flaws and weaknesses, man. I used to say I'm highly unorganized. I'm not highly unorganized anymore. I'm just slightly unorganized. Brian Bomar, I've talked about him a couple times already. He likes to say Kevin loves to throw the blind punches. Like I like to respond to things really fast, but sometimes those aren't always the accurate answers, because I'm trying to give people what they want instead of like taking time to listen and like, oh wait, hold on, that's not really what they were asking. But when you have a team of people that you work with, that you invest in, that care about you, that offset your skill sets, right? The diversity of skill sets, it makes it easy because they can pick up the pieces for you. I also believe that when you truly invest in people and you care about the people you're working with, your customers, the like, and they care about you, it can cover up a lot of warts, right? When you develop relationships with people, I call it personal capital. Like if I'm investing in you, I've got capital I can spend, because it's not if or when. It's not if we're going to screw up, it's when we're going to screw up. I used to talk about that all the time at Whiteboard, right? You know that, right? I was like, hey, dude, it's not if the software screws up, it's when it screws up, you know? And I always wanted people at Whiteboard, if they were going to quit, I wanted them to feel like they were quitting me. I wanted to feel like, man, I love Kevin, or I wanted to feel like they were quitting my team, because so that's, you know, we tried to always put the customer first. Awful lot of stuff I'm talking about there.
Yeah, that was you went a lot of different directions there.
I did. I'm sorry. I'm scatterbrained sometimes.
It's all good. I love it. That's why we're here, to break some of those things down a little bit farther, right? Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned, where you're talking about, you know, how your thoughts of being Tony Robbins are gone at 45, and I want to back you off that a little bit, right? Because one, you're never going to be Tony Robbins, and even the people that are inspiring to be Tony Robbins will never be, right? Like right. You got the height, maybe not.
I got the length of the head, I think.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you got something like that. And that's not a bad thing, right? Like when we say stuff like that, we think, oh wow, he's telling me I'm not going to be that good. I've never said that. You're just never going to be somebody else,
right?
And I think that like honestly, KD, that's one of the things that draws me to you the most, is like you are freaking unapologetically yourself, and the fact that you can be like aware of that, you know, I'm never going to be Tony Robbins, but I can impact people in my circle. And to be honest, those people may look at you like you are Tony Robbins, and you have like, that's a big responsibility, right? Like we look at this leadership thing as just climbing the ladder and getting a new title and, you know, getting to the top. And And then when they say you get to the top, then it's lonely at the top. Well, it's only lonely at the top if you stepped on people to get there, because those people are still there. And so, the way that you phrased that of how you can have an impact on a daily basis to those people is extremely important. And I think that you do an extremely good job of that. And just watching, your daily stuff, the things that you put out on reels, and you're just you, and I freaking love it. And so I wanted to say that at some point throughout today, that was one of my goals. So I've accomplished one of my goals for this one, is just to tell KD that I freaking love it, because he's unapologetically himself.
Well, thank you, man. It means a lot. Appreciate it.
I'm going to switch, and since we're kind of going all over the place, I'm going to throw it out into the moon. But on your Facebook about 3 weeks ago, I think you posted that Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift is one of the best songs ever written. And so I got to ask, was it a hack or was it actually you? And I got to hear why.
No, it's actually the truth. So I have 2 daughters. They are 9 and 6, about to be 10 and 7 in December. So my youngest is a music lover, like through and through, right? And so now she has just started to like move into pop music. To be honest, in the car with us, we listen to Christian music. That's my family. That's what we're about. I don't want her to listen to a lot of the garbage, but you know what? Kids also, they don't understand it. So I'm starting to have a little bit more grace with that. But all of a sudden they've been tuned into Taylor Swift. And so they've listened to a lot of Taylor Swift songs. And there's a lot of Taylor Swift songs out there, that I know or have heard before. But I have not listened to like modern pop music at all in the last probably 5 to 10 years. And they put on the Anti-Hero song, and I'm like, wait a second. And I started listening to the lyrics, and it's like, it's me. I'm the problem, it's me. And I'm like, wait a second, Taylor Swift is saying that? And then this one lyric just caught me just out of the blue. And she said, did you hear my covert narcissism I disguise as altruism, like some kind of congressman, tale as old as time. I wake up screaming from dreaming, one day I'll watch as you're leaving, and life will lose all its meaning. I just think there's some interest, like I talked about earlier, like leaders have introspection. I think she's realizing like she is the problem in her life, right? Taylor Swift wrote so many songs about breaking up with people, and this is one where she's like, hi, I'm the problem. It's me. I self-sabotage. And dude, I am the king of self-sabotage. I've done it to myself so many times. I've done it because honestly, I don't believe that I should have the successful life I should for the myth thing. It still sits there, right? It's still subconscious. It's still in your head. And so that song, and then I listened deeper to the lyrics, I just think I think it's a phenomenally written song. It's like some of the best, like my favorite musicians right now are people like Zach Bryan and Jason Isbell and Sturgill Simpson. And it's poetry set to music, which I think music was initially meant to do. And it makes you think, and there's lyrics and there's heartfelt stuff that's going on there. And she just does it in that song. It's a beautiful song. It's incredible.
Where you brought up altruism, and I heard a quote, and I'm going to misquote it, but it sticks with me when you brought up altruism. And it talks about being selfish. And it says that, like, to summarize or paraphrase, overdoing altruism is the biggest form of selfishness. And it, like, breaking that down, a little bit farther, for me, the way that it translated to me was, if you're giving away everything, you're like being selfish because you're not even taking care of yourself. Like you're so far in the opposite direction that you can't even take care of yourself. So you're relying on all of those people that you're giving all of this energy to give you energy back, instead of claiming your own energy. So you're able to, look at that quote and go, okay, so, you brought up where the introspection piece, and people will go, oh, that's selfish, you shouldn't do that. But it's really interesting, because if you're overdoing it, where you're soaking it in and then you're projecting the ego that's coming back, that's the selfish piece. If you're taking care of it. But I have to take care of myself. I have to go to the gym. I have to read. I have to listen to motivational media. I have to do all of these things, or I can't help you. And if I'm constantly like putting away and emptying my cup for everybody else, I got to be able to fill it back up. And if I can't fill it back up for myself, that's still a form of selfishness because I'm requiring somebody else to do it. And it's what are your thoughts like as far as applying that to, like, I mean, as something as quick quoted as Taylor Swift, I mean, it applies and matches.
Absolutely. So one of the foundations of my life that has grown significantly in the past few years is my faith, right? And I'm talking about being unapologetically me. That's something I didn't talk about much in the past. We're much more comfortable with it now. Also, knowing that I'm a deeply flawed human being, and that's okay. So one of the things for me is, like, when I drop my kids off to school in the morning, like I listen to my devotional, I listen to some verses from the Bible, and then I go to work. Like that is my time. That even though it's just 15 to 20 minutes, that's the thing that I need to set my day up right. I'm starting to do that back again with exercise. I want to look like I did when I first met you, as opposed to the post-COVID where I allowed myself to balloon up a little bit. But I talk about this I lead a youth group. I've got these boys. I've got 6 to 8 boys that show up pretty much every Wednesday night. I've had most of these kids since they were in 7th grade. And now it's awesome. Oh my goodness. 7th, 8th, 9th grade was just like make you pull your hair out. They just drove you nuts. And now they're turning into young men, and it's so much fun. But we talk about a lot of things and a lot of the distractions and a lot of the time wasters that they have in their lives. They love video games. I love sports. There's things that can keep us from doing the things that we need. However, if you're utilizing those things in your life, however trivial it may be, doing a crossword puzzle or playing a stupid game on your phone, if that's what you need, that time, that rest to recharge your batteries, to have some, all right, cool, I'm ready to go do it. Watching mindless television. My wife used to watch the Housewives, and I'm like, my wife has a PhD in molecular and integrated physiology, right? She's super freaking smart. I'm like, what do you want? She's like, I just need to watch a show where I don't think about anything. I just need to turn my brain off and just be like, blah. And I think far too often, this is one of the things I think really successful people struggle with, is they're like, I just got to grind, and go grind some more. I'm like, yeah, you do. But come Friday, you're a miserable cuss. Like, can you please just go golf or watch a movie or take a nap or something? Like, the Bible speaks over and over that you need to take rest. And I truly believe that there's it's like anything else. It's got to be moderation. Because like you said, if your altruistic thing is like, I'm going to deliver this because I want to do things for the whole wide world, here, harken it all the way back to Tony Robbins, right? I don't want to be Tony Robbins. I don't want to be like Tony Robbins. I don't want to be like Ed Milet. I don't even want their bank account, to be frank. Like, that's not success to me. I don't want to work that much. Frank, I don't, and I'm not going to. I've got 2 little kids at home. I want to be at every soccer game. I want to be at every play, every recital. I had 2 goals when I was a kid of like what success meant to me. I wanted to be a good husband and a good father, and I struggle with both. And I've struggled, and that was success to me. And so, like, you talk about being at the top of the mountain, I'm at the top of the mountain, like, because I'm living the successful life that I had envisioned for me. Because you can't determine my success, and I can't determine yours. My success is unto me. And while CEOs of Fortune 500 companies with multiple commas in their bank account may look at me as unsuccessful, I look at them on their 4th or 5th marriage, and I go like, I prefer my life. So I think that's a huge thought of introspection, is like, what do you want of your life? What do you want it to be? Because success is ultimately self-measured. There's guys who get up in the morning and ride on the back of a garbage truck and go home and watch I Love Lucy reruns with their wife. Well, I Love Lucy was an old television show. No, I'm just teasing. But
yeah, I'm not that young. Come on now.
Eat a moon pie, a TV dinner, and have an RC Cola with their wife and love their life. That's success. There are people who are making bajillions of dollars and work and can't ever be happy with what they do, that are miserable. That's not success. That's not success to me. Success is completely self-determined. And so I think once you come to that realization, understanding what you truly want out of your life, things change for you. Your mentality changes. And I think that's helped me because I think in the last couple of years, I have improved greatly as a husband and as a father. And so I am more comfortable in my skin than I think I ever have been.
Yeah, it shows for sure. Like
Thank
I've
you.
said a couple of times throughout, man. I mean, the growth there has shown for sure. The other piece that I definitely want to add in there with what you're saying, like 100% self-determined success, right? Like wherever you're at, if you can look yourself in the mirror and go, I'm successful, you've made it. You're at the top of the mountain, as you put it. The other side of that is not looking at the other guy and going, man, he's not successful because he's not where I am, right? That and I think that us struggling with that creates an even bigger internal struggle for us because we're either looking up or we're looking down instead of just looking across. Like look across the table instead of trying to see who's up above you or who's below you, because really it's who are you thinking is above you? Because I bet they're not. Because I bet they're looking at you and going, man, that guy's got it. Or they're, you're looking at social media and you see only the fun stuff, the brilliant trips and all of this stuff, but you don't see the struggle in between.
Oh.
And so if you can really, instead of like looking at someone as an end point, you get to look at what you're going through on a daily basis as the win, then whatever happens doesn't matter. This is something it's taken a long time for me to develop, right? Of like looking at something and going, man, if I don't make it there, then I'm not going to be successful. But really it's like you fall in love with the daily stuff, and you fall in love with, waking up and your daughter crawled into your bed at night. And, I don't have that experience yet, but I know you do. And so I wanted to invoke that emotion. I saw it happen right there, right? Like I brought that up and you're like, this is it. Right. And it's just all those little things. And if you can really pay attention to that stuff instead of only paying attention to the goals or the what you're determined to get, it changes the daily basis. It changes everything.
Well, it's funny you say that. So like my dad and brother are both convicted felons, right? My mom and dad were both married. They're both on their third marriages, and their third marriages are working, and it's great. But in between, there were hot messes. Like, I got in multiple fist fights as a kid, and it was a little bit reckless. Like I told you, it was a little bit wild, and chasing girls in the army and underage drinking and just wild, crazy stuff. Like I did all of that. And so it's funny. So when my wife and I were attending a Baptist church for a while, I was talking to my buddy about it. And he's like, dude, you like it? I was like, I love the Baptist church, man. Like, I love this church that I'm going to. I love the sermons. And he's like, dude, you're like the least judgmental person I know. You're always giving people the benefit of the doubt. How can you go to a church that's so judgmental? And I'm like, wait a second. Like, it was just talking to me. Like when they were saying, hey, like you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta do this. I wasn't saying, yeah, Ryan, you gotta do that. I was like, no, they're talking to me. Like, I'm not worried. No offense. I'm not worried about you while I'm sitting in there. Right. And I think that's exactly what you're saying is like, and that's the thing is like, when we talk about being at the top of the mountain, and not at the top of the mountain, but my goal in life was to be successful was to be a good dad and a good husband. And I am most days. Could I be better? Hell yeah, I could be better. I got to be a lot better. There's things I need to improve on. And this is one of the things I'm really struggling with in the last couple of months is like, and I'm trying to make an effort to it, is I need to improve my health so I can be around longer for them if so willing, right? Lord knows I could get hit by a car today and there's nothing I can do about that. But the things that I can take into my control, like monitor my diet and exercise more, I need to do that for my children. I need to do that for my wife. So even when you get to a level of success, you can always be better. But I'm not competing with you. I'm competing with me. I'm competing with yesterday. And I know it's so cliche, but that is when you have that aspect in your life, there's a level of peace that comes along with it that makes everything okay. Like I know I'm going to screw up. I know I'm going to fall on my face. I just get back up and try again tomorrow. So
yeah, and it's as long as you're looking at the upside, I think any mindset is okay to have as long as you're looking at the upside of it. Instead of, I put out a video about a week and a half ago called, it was basically, it's okay to not be okay. Like you're not okay as you are. You're not. And if somebody's telling you like, oh, it's okay, they're consoling your feelings and they're protecting you.
Correct.
And you are the only one that can really protect yourself. Right. So you know, when we talk about issues and things are like, oh, people are like, oh, it's okay. Like they're just consoling. And really what they're doing is they're feeling awkward because they've felt it and they wanted to project that onto you and say, you know what, it's okay. We've all felt that. We've all felt that way. And so, you know, the overlying message is like, you know, the slogan of one man's journey, you're not the only one, right? And you can take comfort in that. And you're not the only one going through these struggles. And I guarantee there's somebody else out there that's doing exactly the same thing. And you have different endpoints, and we all have different, and well, really, we all have the same endpoint. But in life, we all have, you know, we all have different goal points and different determinations of what we want to accomplish. But you can't just blow off everything in the moment to get there, because you're going to look back and go, man, that did nothing. It doesn't mean anything because it's just me up here, right? Like I've stepped on everybody in my life to get here, and it just doesn't make any sense. And so I think like there's so much there. I mean, I love it, Kevin. Like I think you're right where you need to be, man. Like,
well, I think you're right. It's the one man's journey, and it's okay to not be okay. I think that the ideal opportunity when people are going through that is to empathize and be like, dude, I've been there, get it. But at the same time, like you got to enjoy the moments. Like there's a fine line. Like I'm the worst picture taker in the world because I'm just caught up in the moment. Like I just don't think like. But you can also be that person that takes 500 pictures and never actually saw the waterfall, right? Like you just saw it through a lens. Like there's a fine line between the two. I think, yeah, I think it's like this, right? I think okay being not okay kind of comes down to this. My dad used to tell me all the time when I was a kid. He's like, you can worry in one hand and shit in the other, and tell me which one fills up first. And I used to be like, I don't get this. Like I didn't get it until finally it clicked with me. As I got older, I was like, oh, there's actually there's nothing in worry. But then I'm going to change that a little bit. Like you can worry about something. Worry can be a very, very healthy thing. Anxiety can be somewhat healthy to a point. Fear can be somewhat healthy to a point. It's what do you do with it? Like if I'm worried about being 300 pounds again, and I go and drown it in a 12-pack of beers because I'm worried about it and eat a box of Cheez-Its, that's really bad. Or if I just don't do anything about it and just worry, that's awful. But if you got worry or fear or anxiety that produces action, that's extremely healthy. Extremely healthy. Like, you know, worry that creates action is good stuff, man. Like, so if you're worried about your health and you got to start getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and going to the gym and watch what you eat, that's good. That's a good, healthy thing. If you're worried that you're not driving your business, that you're not going to write as many loans this year, so you pick up the phone and start dialing for dollars to your past funded database saying, hey, do you know me? That's great. That's phenomenal. And by the way, let me add a little snippet in here. 15% of borrowers knew the name of their loan officer in 2019. NAM did a study. That was 2019. What happened the next 2 years? The biggest refi boom we've ever seen, probably will ever see. We'll probably never see anything like that. The refi is more transactional than the purchase. Let's be real. Like, I mean, you can argue with me, oh, well, I take it. Bullshit. Sorry. It's more transactional. It's faster paced. It's quick. It's pure money. It's move on. It's freeing up dough, right? We're buying a house. There's a home. That's a big freaking deal, right? You, the first time home buyer guy, that's a big freaking deal. So that number has declined. I would bet you it's in the single digits or very, very low teens, right? So now we're moving into a market from 2022 to 2024. We're going to lose 50% of loan officers. So you got those completely out. Dude, there's a huge opportunity for every loan officer. And I know that this is our common space, and I want to share this. I want to preach. I'm going to jump up on the pulpit. You've got to reach out to your past funded database. You've got to connect with them in some kind of meaningful way. Give them something tangible to talk to them about. And does that mean picking up the phone and calling them? Yep. Does that mean automated emails? Yep. Does it mean automated text in your CRM system? Yep. Does it mean creating videos on the social? Yep. It's yes and to all the things, because you got to reach all of them, right? Especially right now, there's a certain single generation that has the money, that can afford the homes, that can move. They're boomers. You know what they like? Phones. There's a certain generation that needs a new home for their first-time home buyers. You know what they like? The socials, the videos. You got to do it all. Like if you want to be the modern originator right now, you've got to do all of that stuff. And I'm sorry that like this took the tangent from business, but I just see so many of my friends out there that are like that are weathering the storm, that are doing well. They're doing all the things. And I see the other ones that are struggling more so are I don't want to pick up the phone and call anybody. Well, why? 30% of Americans answer their phones. 15% know who their loan officer is. You automatically doubled, and you're twice as good as everybody else now, right? I mean, just the numbers say that. So, and that's if all 15% that knew your name were the 30% that answered the call. Like, it's just there's you got to do all the things right now as a loan officer. And you know what? You've been afforded something you weren't afforded 18 months ago. You got time. Time, you can do that thing, and you can pick up the phone, you can go through the database, you send a personal text, man. Like, just be different. So
yeah, that's where that the worry, you brought up the worry and stuff taking action, and obviously it needs to elicit the action, because if you're worrying, you're just stuck, and you're stuck thinking about the future, not actually doing anything about it. And it's interesting, another, bringing in another side quote paraphrased, is that worry and excitement have the exact same chemical response in your body. And you can physically not determine between the two. And so a lot of the people, and I'm not throwing an entire generation and an entire class of people, I'm not throwing anything like that. A lot of people are like, yeah, I struggle with anxiety. Do you always struggle with anxiety? Or is some of it excitement about the possibility of the other side? And you can never physically, like, your brain cannot determine between the two. And so I think that that's a huge thing, is like, don't worry about the determination. When you get that feeling, find a way to take action in the direction to solve the problem that you're worried or excited about. Either way, it's the same chemical reaction. Use the chemical in the direction it needs to be used in.
Yeah, the step. At the precipice of the roller coaster is the same feeling before the monster jumps out of the corner in a scary movie. It's the same feeling. It's just looked at differently. It's and when you start to understand your own emotions, and you can start to choose things. Like, I got cut off today. And I had to instantaneously, I got pissed off. And I was like, wait a second. You mean to cut me off? I just got over too late and I've done that. Cool, man. Have a great day. Like, I could choose to get pissed off about it, come to the office, be all mad, be real shitty on your podcast. That'd go real well for me. Or I could be like, nah, man, it's cool. Like, don't get me wrong. I had the instantaneous human reaction. I want to punch that person. I actually don't want to punch the person. That's why it's so easy to do in cars. It's like, you want to punch the Toyota Camry. Like, you're not going to punch the action. No idea who the human being is there. Like, you're punching right?
Yeah, we got Mac Humphrey getting out of the truck on the other side. You don't want that. So
like, I'm turning around.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're approaching the end of time here, but I think that what you just brought up may have spiraled into an episode 2 for us, or a part 2 for us, of the victimhood mentality, and how, both of us have claimed that and the power that's in that. But, I truly appreciate all your insight today. I appreciate your story. I appreciate you coming on here and being vulnerable and talking about the things that matter. I think, ultimately that's kind of the concept of this whole thing, is to be in the moment, be vulnerable, and allow yourself to show up. So I truly appreciate that. And I will gladly welcome you back on another episode, and we'll get that part 2 rolling.
I love that, because there was actually a piece of advice that I gave somebody, and I certainly didn't coin this completely on my own, but somebody said, well, if you could give one piece of advice to the younger generation coming into the workforce, what would you tell them? And this is go back to your victim. I said, the world is not out to get you. The world doesn't give a shit about you. It's just the truth. Nobody's that important for the world to care about or be out to get you. None of us are. None of us. What do you do with the immediate circle around you? That's the part of the world that cares about you. Fix that. Work on that. So, love to talk about that. So.
Yeah, that's a great sign off. Appreciate it, Kevin. And whoever's listening, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.